Hi everybody, Rusty with you for this edition of the Summer Grill, all brought to you by KTM. Make sure you check out their award-winning range of motorcycles, from dirt bikes, adventure, and some seriously cool road bikes as well. Not to mention the ultimate range of accessories, as they say, ready to race. In this edition, we're going to catch up with the 18-year-old from the Philippines, Bianca Bustamante, who in 2024 is a part of the McLaren Driver Development Program. Speedcafe's F1 editor, Matt Kosh, caught up with her during the holiday break.
Bianca, I'm properly excited to be speaking with you. It feels like you're the next generation. You're the exciting future of motorsport, if that makes sense. You've just signed with McLaren. You've had a year in F1 Academy. I guess give us the elevator pitch firstly of who Bianca Bustamante is.
Oh wow, what a tough question to start with. I mean, honestly, my whole life revolved around motorsport. Ever since I was a kid, I've been passionately in love with the sport, with racing, with speed, with cars. I mean, I started driving at the age of 3. Before I even built my own personality, before I knew who I was, I just knew that I love to race. And yeah, I started driving at the age of 3. Started competing at the age of 6. And a decade and a half later, here I am. So yeah, pretty much it.
So where does that passion come from? Because particularly here in Australia, normally, so it's a very family thing is motorsport. You get it from the generation that comes before you. Where does it come from for you?
I think that was the main struggle that I honestly faced. Was that the lack of representation in the Philippines in motorsport, women in the sport as well. I really didn't have anyone to look up to in my country. We're not a country that's known for motorsport, that's known for racing, and because of that, it was entirely difficult to even get started or even to get in a go kart. But my dad kind of showed me my first love. He showed me racing. He introduced me to the sport, and forever I'll always be grateful for that. He himself, I would always call him a frustrated racing driver because he could never pursue it himself. Because we all know how expensive motorsport or racing can be, how difficult it is because we don't even have kart tracks or go karts in the Philippines that allows you to have an easy access to start driving. And this was like, yeah, 10 years ago. So I've it's amazing to see the recent changes and how much more my country is welcoming motorsport. But yeah, I mean, a few years back, there was a big lack of support.
That sort of touches on something I want to ask you. Is what's the motorsport scene in the Philippines like? As you said, it's not a traditional motorsport country, I guess, if you like. Australia, we've got a long history, the UK through Europe, even the Americas have got that background, but the Philippines doesn't. Where are things now versus when you started?
I mean, it's crazy. Like I know like countries in Europe and America, they do racing, like for fun as a hobby, something you do on the weekends with family, with mom, dad, and just thinking how accessible that was for them, it was the complete opposite for me. We're known for boxing, for basketball, but driving fast, not really. I mean, we have a lots of traffic, but that's pretty much it. um, and yeah, so growing up I was often told to not even pursue motorsport. They often told me that it's a sport for the richest, and you're not fortunate enough to have that, you're not rich enough. You're as at a disadvantage because you're born in a country that doesn't normally support motorsport. So it was very hard, as a kid, often being told to dream less while achieve something in life. And the fact that we're from a very middle class family, that didn't help at all. I mean, we couldn't afford to fly to Europe to race. At the age of 10, I was winning championships in Asia. I was fortunate enough to get the support from teams and funding to even be able to compete in Asian karting championships. And through that, I've done my best. I think growing up in the Philippines, allowed me to have a very different point of view in life to not take anything for granted, to make sure that I use every lap as I can to learn, to maximize that opportunity. And because of that, I was able to win, even though it was extremely difficult, even though it was male dominated.
One of the things that I hear from a lot of drivers, particularly from Australia, getting to Europe, is that it's so difficult to get over there. You know, I guess the Philippines, you're not a long way away from us, relatively speaking. You're still a long way away from us,
Yeah.
but it's difficult to get into Europe because of geography and even just things like finding backers locally, finding businesses that want that exposure in Europe, those sorts of things. How
Oh
difficult has
gosh.
that been for you? Because that's the biggest complaint we hear.
I mean, it's half the battle in motorsport, I mean, I think that was the main difference from any other sport that I've experienced is that, you get a ball, you can dribble, you can practice, but in racing, Formula cars or karting, you need, the mechanics, you need a track, you need a cart, a lot of variables just for you to even enhance your skills. And the best drivers are in the car nearly every other day, and that's really what it takes to be the best. Racing is one of the sports where the car is the equalizer, and you as a driver, you make the difference in your race and in your drive. And I think that's what always been amazing about it. And of course, you can have the best team and the best car, and if you don't drive your best, then it's not going to be a good result. So that's mainly why I loved racing, because I, as a person, as a driver, I can implement so much and I can make so much difference if I drive the corner differently. Um, and then as I was racing in Asia, it was finally time to to level up after I've won my Asian karting titles. It's time to go to Europe, and then oh gosh, that's where the difficult
Oh
part
gosh.
comes. Oh gosh, I mean, to get to Europe, it takes nearly 2 days for me. I mean, you've got like three connecting flights. I mean, it's expensive. I can't even imagine the struggle that like other drivers have to go through, but for me it's like nearly impossible even. And for the longest time, I was thinking that maybe I should just quit racing, because in the end there's really not many opportunities in Asia, and we have lack of support, lack of representation. So for me to make it, that's like a one in a million. For me to be where I am now, I never would have expected it, to be honest. Like, imagine telling this little girl from a little town in the Philippines that she'll end up driving for McLaren one day. So it was like shoot for the stars and land somewhere, and that's what I've done. We risked everything. My parents, my dad was working 3 jobs in America just to give food and just to put food on the table, to give support to the family. And for us, every time we were on the track, it was like a golden ticket for me, at least. Every time that I was driving, every lap that I get to do, it was like a dream come true. And to see the progression that has happened the past 2 years is incredible, knowing that I was retired for 2 years as well during the pandemic. I think it massively affected Asia, especially Philippines, and because of this, we made a decision that we are struggling to even just eat 3 times a day, so you can't really be thinking about motorsport at that point. So
Glad that you managed to get back in a car. And let's talk a little bit about your background now, because you've raced USF Juniors over in the United States, which is effectively a Formula 4 car, for lack of a better description. You've done some W Series, which is a Formula 3 car, and then you've also done some of the Indian Racing League, which I guess to Australians is more of like a sports prototype style car. It's a Wolf
yeah,
08 or something, isn't it? Which of those cars do you like? Which suits you the best? Which do you enjoy driving?
honestly, I love the car that I'm racing now. Honestly, in the F1 Academy. Um, yeah, I think you know the main difference for guys and girls is that we lack the opportunity to test, to practice, to enhance your craft. Mostly because of the lack of funding and the lack of support. And when we entered F1 Academy, they were giving us 15 days of testing. You're in the car, you're testing, you're driving, before you can even race. And I think that was just incredible. The amount of days I had in the car this year was just unbelievable. Even for me, like, I can't believe that I'm in the car this much. And, that's because of all the sponsors, all the support, and alongside F1 Academy. And because of that, I was able to really develop my drive, my skills. I mean, last year in W Series, it was my first year ever in Formula Cars. And I was probably 4 seconds off the pace, actually. Like, imagine just driving, just driving wise, being 4 seconds off. And that's just because of the lack of testing, lack of experience. I didn't have the confidence in myself in W Series. I was racing against drivers like, Jamie, who's had 5 to 8 years of experience in Formula Cars. And because of that, you don't have the confidence in you to push the car because you're scared to crash, you're scared to spin out, you're scared to make a mistake. And that's just, it's common. That's common behavior once you're experiencing something for the first time. And so this year, we had to make sure that I'm able to make a big jump, performance-wise, driving-wise. And we went from 4 seconds off to being, one of the fastest drivers in F1 Academy. Very first race of the year, we won P2. And ever since then, we've been, fighting in the front and sometimes fighting for the win. And to see that massive progression from being dead last 4 seconds off to where I am now is incredible. And that's what I would say F1 Academy has offered me, to work with top teams, just Prema, ART, and develop and build your craft. Because in the end, that's really what it takes to be the best. You need to drive with the best team. You need to be in the best car. You need to be, always in the car. And that's what I got this year. So I would say that, yeah, the F1 Academy car this year was probably my favorite one to drive.
You're selling yourself a little bit short there because, yes, you might have been quick out of the box, but you also won twice this year. So you've had to get the trophy polish out this year, which is good to hear. But talking about W Series and more to the point, F1 Academy, what do those categories mean and what do they do for you? You spoke about testing and time in the car, but it's more than that, in my opinion. But what does it mean to you as an aspiring driver?
Well, honestly, to me, it meant even more. I mean, for others, it's just probably another one of the championships they're going to race at and then move on. But for me, it was, my silver lining. I always say that because, you don't get a lot of opportunities when you're in the Philippines. You're always left behind. You're always left out. And the fact that, I was the very first one in my country to even get an opportunity like that. I was the first Asian in F1 Academy. I was the only Asian. And so, thinking like that, it means so much to me because, when I race, when I drive, I never just drive for myself. I always drive for the people that supports me, the people behind me. And in the end, I always think of an end goal. Like, after all of this, what's next? And honestly, for me, it was always about opening doors for the next generation. And more especially, my country. I think Philippines we have so much resources that, are just not acknowledged, that aren't given enough attention. And I think, we can have one of the best drivers in the world as well, as long as, given the opportunities, given the highlights, given, the amount of support they need. And I'd love to see, to open doors for young girls and boys in Philippines or in Asia to have an opportunity to pursue motorsport. And not even just that, to be honest. I mean, I would love, girls and boys to be more, into motorsport instead of engineering or as a mechanic, as a strategist. And to kind of see that already happening, in the middle of my journey now, being 18 and I'm, I get so many messages from people, saying that I inspire them to work out, to train, to better themselves, to wake up at 5 a.m. to go for a run or to pursue engineering, even though it's so male dominated, or to be a mechanic, even though it's not known to be a career for girls. Like seeing those messages, that's what drives me. And I mean, to win is one thing, but like to win in people's lives is incredible. It's to be the difference that I want to see in the world as well. I mean, I really feel like it's more than just about racing, especially for me. I'm here because of everyone that's believed and trusted in me, and I think I would love to give back to the community to pay it forward in any way that I can. So yeah, I mean, being in F1 Academy and signing with McLaren, it's opening doors not just for me but for the upcoming generation.
Let's just talk about inspiring people in the Philippines. And I guess we can't talk about that without talking about the Billboard. What was it? 30-odd story building with your picture
Oh
plastered
my
across the side of
god.
it. Tell us that story. That is an absolute cracker.
Oh my god. I remember like I was doing my laundry. Yes, I was like, race is done, race is over in Valencia. I was like, oh cool, like it went a bit viral. I mean, it was the first time, in a long while that the anthem, like the Philippine anthem, was played in motorsport. So like it was a big deal for Philippines. So I was like, oh, okay, that's it. What I mean? Like it's just a win. It's not like we won a world championship or anything. I fly back to Annecy in Annecy, France, where I was training, and I was in a training camp. I landed. I was like, okay, gotta do my laundry. So I went down the basement. I was, loading all my clothes. I was waiting for it. I was like sitting on the floor, and then I look up to my phone. My phone was buzzing like crazy, And then I open it. I was like, oh my gosh, the president of the Philippines just tweeted me congratulations. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I scroll down and I see my face on this big, I don't even know, 30-story building. And it's just my face plastered on it with me like holding a trophy and then saying congratulations. And I was like, what? I mean, I remember like driving through that, that highway and being stuck in traffic and just looking at billboards and to like imagine myself, being in one of those billboards was a bit crazy. Like everything that I'm experiencing, it's kind of all so surreal. I think being 18, I didn't realize, how much impact that I can make, because in the end, I'm just a kid who's trying to make it into F1. And to see all those people that, to see a nation rally behind you, behind your journey and behind, your passion, your love for the sport, it's incredible. I mean, it's the best feeling ever. I've probably definitely a highlight, a core memory. Whatever happens in my career, I'm gonna be like, I was in a billboard once and the president tweeted me congratulations. Like it will always be a story to tell, and honestly, it's incredible, to turn a whole nation from no interest in racing at all to suddenly being, an F1 fan, a racing fan. It's just incredible. Like I've said, we're known for boxing, for basketball, but not for racing. So to see this amount of recognition and to see this amount of support is incredible.
You mentioned it a couple of times. You've signed with McLaren for the F1 Academy for the coming year. You're now part of, I guess, the academy at McLaren, not just the F1 Academy itself. Talk us through how that came about, because that's an exciting development as well. You're one of only a handful of drivers anywhere in the world to have a Formula One contract, or a contract with a Formula One team.
I mean, I still get super shy about it. Like, wow, I mean, that's incredible. I don't even know where to begin. I'm one of, I guess, the lucky ones in F1 Academy to not just sign as, an F1 Academy driver, but also to be part of McLaren's development program. And, having that opportunity, it means the world to me, to everyone, to my country. So honestly, when the opportunity came about, and, instantly, I was like, I need to be in a place where they can truly believe in what I can do and not just sign me because of who or what I am. and seeing the values of a McLaren and how much they've been a pioneer and a trailblazer in sport. They've helped revolutionize, they've helped change, they've helped they're pioneers and women in motorsport, in STEM even. And I knew that that's where I needed to be. I needed to be with the best. And I've always said to myself, it takes a village to build a champion, and that's what McLaren is giving me. They're giving me the support, mentally, on the car, on track, off track. And when we signed with them, like I said, I wasn't thinking of like a massive big deal about it. Like I was like, oh cool, signing with McLaren. And then we announced it. And then that announcement ended up being the largest driver announcement in McLaren history. So I was like, oh my gosh. So
McLaren have had a couple of good drivers over the years as well. So that's quite a thing.
Yes. Yeah. So like hearing that as well from Zach Brown, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I'm like freaking out. I'm like fangirling. I didn't know how to react, how to take it, smile, or do I have to act cool, act like, I got it under control, guys. I promise. But really not. In the end, I mean, I'm just taking it as it goes, one day at a time. So whenever big things like this occur on a daily basis, I'm like, I didn't really know what to do. So that announcement happened, and it was crazy. It was so big, and my whole life turned upside up, and I gained 1 million followers. I mean, that's a bit the scary part, actually. Social media now is like, I always have to think before I post something funny. Is like, okay, Bia, you have 1 million followers. You gotta, you can't be your 100% self now. You can't show them your weird, funny content. I'm like, oh, damn it. But it's okay. And yeah, it's just those little things, that for me matters a lot. Like the little stuff, and the fact that I've got all these people supporting and cheering me on is crazy. And McLaren is doing everything they can to help me develop as fast as I can, training wise and testing wise, giving me the exposure I need to even be a bigger brand for myself, so I can move up. And that's always a bit of the battle, about on track and off track. It's as important as it is driving, media, building your brand, and that's what allows you to make the next step. And we've seen a lot of drivers that are good, that have won races, that have won championship, but they don't have the support, they don't have the funding, and that's always going to be half the battle in racing. You can't just be fast. You've got to be everything else. You've got to be likable. You've got to need to have support, and it's tough. It's tough in racing because you also have to deal with a lot of the fans, sometimes criticism, and sometimes you don't win, and it's tough.
It sort of leads me on nicely to my next question, because signing with McLaren is obviously a huge milestone in your career, but I guess that it's a double-edged sword, and that it must come with a little bit of pressure as well. Have you found there's more pressure now that you're wearing papaya?
I mean, honestly, it's all been fairy tale. Ever since I wore the t-shirt, it's been like on cloud nine. But it's not even just when I signed with McLaren. For the past 2 years, we've been building our brand, and we've been growing massively. I mean, I couldn't even realize how much people knew who I was or what I was doing. Like, people would come up to me like, oh, "You're the racing driver," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And it's crazy. And and in the end of the day, I think I always just tell people that I'm just a kid that loves to race, that loves to drive fast, and everything that comes with it, I just do it because it allows me to race. So whenever there's stuff like being on a billboard, or being in a cover of one of the biggest magazines in the Philippines, or being in Vogue, all of these stuff that happens on the sideline, it's kind of crazy. I mean, being in like, you know, a cover of a magazine at the age of 17, 18, that's pretty cool too. And I get to experience all of that. But then, you know, there's pros and cons. You know, I can't live a normal teenage life. You know, I can't take that many risks. I can't, you know, just go out and have fun with friends. You know, I have to train. I have to, you know, like within a day, there's only so many hours, and sometimes I don't even have hours to myself to rest because I'm always on the move. And I think that's really, you know, for me, because I love racing, it's been my whole life. And I think that's also been one of the negative points, is that racing has been my entire life. So I never got to experience anything else, you know, like, I know it's probably going to sound like cliche, or like it's the little things, but, you know, like going on field trips or having sleepovers or going to prom. I never got to experience any of that. And for the longest time, I was like, man, I missed out on so many things. But that's just because, you know, I said it to myself that if I'm going to take this seriously, I want to do homeschool. I'm going to do home study. I'm going to devote all my hours to be a better driver, to train, and to race, because that's what I wanted to be. That's who I was. But then, yeah, I mean, and then I see, like, you know, all these kids enjoying their lives, you know, making mistakes, and, you know, I can't afford those. And sometimes I feel like I got to kind of be a normal teenager for a day. But yeah.
You get a little bit of an opportunity to do that and see the world next year, because Formula One Academy is supporting Formula One at all of its rounds next year. So you're going to Saudi Arabia, in the US, Abu Dhabi, and all those sorts of places at over the course of next year. How important is it to be alongside Formula One for you as you look to, I guess, Formula 3 and Formula 2 in future?
I mean, it means everything. You know, it's where we want to be. You know, I feel like every driver, you know, from karting to Formula 4s to FD, they're all racing just to be, you know, one day in Formula One, you know, to be in the pinnacle of motorsport and to be racing alongside it every weekend. It means everything, you know. It's about representation. It's about making a change. It's about, you know, standing and saying that, you know, we belong here and we have a spot in racing, and we're here to stay. And you know, having, you know, that platform and also that connection, you know, F1 Academy led me to McLaren, and because of that, you know, it's given me so much opportunity. It's opened a lot of doors, windows for me as a driver, and that's why even being, you know, with F1, it's going to be even more incredible, because, you know, all those young girls and boys will watch the TV and they get to dream again, and they get to think that, you know, if they can do it, I can do it too. You know, if she's this little girl from little town in the Philippines and she can be a racing driver, then what's stopping me? And you know, imagine all those people watching, millions and millions and millions, and you know, and to have them, you know, see our passion, see our drive, you know, how much we fight for, and how much we want this, and you know, and that journey, we, you know, hope to inspire the next generation. And that's why it's important, you know, not just for us, but for everyone watching, and for everyone that, you know, is cheering us on. I mean, it's honestly incredible. You know, we always say that, you know, like racing is still, you know, male dominated, fans, the teams, the crew. But, you know, I started, you know, social media having a 70-30 following, 70% male following and 30% female following. And for the past 2 years, we've grown that to 60-40, you know, 60% female followings and 40% male followings. And to see that massive change in the supporters and the fans and the viewers is incredible. You know, the fact that we have a lot of female fans that are coming along and are becoming more open about their love for the sport, because back then they were often, you know, bullied or gaslighted into not, you know, liking racing because it's for guys, cars are for guys. And to like see that big change is incredible. You know, I get a lot of messages from all the girls. They're like asking me, "Oh my gosh, what mascara do you use when you race? How come your eyelashes are perfect?" You know, they're like asking me, what's your lipstick shade? I love it." And like seeing those comments and being a racing driver, it empowers me so much. You can be as feminine as you want in a very masculine sport. I wear makeup when I race. It gives me the confidence. It allows me to be myself, and to be so comfortable in racing, doing all of that. It's a massive change from where we were a couple of years ago. So to kind of be in the front line of all the changes is amazing.
It really feels like we're on the precipice of something. Imagine how good motorsport could be if we had full inclusion across gender and diversity, everything. Motorsport's great as it is. Imagine how much greater it could be. It's incredible. Just before we wrap up, Bianca,
Exactly.
one thing I want to ask you is F1 Academy 2024, what's the target for you?
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, when I have the helmet on, I'm a driver and I'm here to drive, I'm here to race, and I want to win. I want to win the season next year, and I think I have the best team. I'm in the right spot. I have the best support to make those big steps. And then next year, with the help of McLaren and the development program, led by Manuel, an amazing driver that I've looked up to my whole life, and it's incredible to even be working alongside him, and to have them, pushing me in the right direction and inspiring me to be a better driver. I know that I'm able to show a very strong season. I just need to keep my head on the game, to keep myself focused, and to really hammer myself down. And that's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to bleed for the sport. And next year, I want to win. And that's the goal. The end game for me will always be Formula One. And, next year it will be, a very pivotal year in my career. And I know that, I've got it to perform well. I just got to put it together.
Bianca, very best of luck with that. Really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us. Your passion and enthusiasm for the sport it's infectious. It's put a smile on my face, which is brilliant. Thank you so much, and very best over the holiday period.
Oh my gosh, right. December, Christmas is literally right around the corner.
Hope you've got all your gifts all bought.
That was quick. This year went by quick.
That is it for this edition of the Summer Grill, all brought to you by KTM, ready to race. And we will have another special guest joining us tomorrow morning right here at speedcafe.com. You could be a winner each episode of the Summer Grill. KTM are giving you the chance to win a bar stool, a mug, and this race-inspired clock as well. So there's more good reasons to tune in and hear from some of the stars of world motorsport here as a part of the KTM Summer Grill. All you got to do is click on the link below, fill in your details, and you could be in the running to win.